those who got involved were in it for the reasons of, I want to help this guy out. I believe in this project, and they were happy to ostensibly go through a hard time and not be put up in a resort or whatever for production. And then they got surprised with, oh, this actually isn't going to be as hard as it's made it out to sound. And when we finished the production, we were all so familiar with each other, so familiar with each other that I proposed to my partner at the wrap party, because better than a family, it was just my tribe was around me. So that was a really gratifying thing to happen.
I tell you what, like, I've had a few things happen in life, and I think most people have, right? By the time you're sort of, I mean, I'm 41 now, so by the time you're kind of getting into that middle range, which I never want to call myself middle-aged, but I had to sort of accept it. Well, like in my late 30s, I was just, no, I'm not middle-aged, but then I'm 40, I was like, well, that used to be over the hill, so I guess I'll probably take that on the chin. So nonetheless, all right, so you're in film school.
Yep.
What's the first film that you made?
Oh, like a lot of people fresh out of film school, I had this safety net of equipment and people and knowledge. So as soon as the course ended, I came out very cocksure of myself, and then had to face all these brick walls again. So the first films that I made didn't get finished, which is something which I've now addressed and I'm working on now. The first one I released and said this is my first film was The Lives We Lead, which was, you just sang about middle age there. I had what I would call a quarter life crisis. So I had I was 24, 25 years old, and suddenly everyone who I had known from my adolescence and my young adulthood was getting married, having kids, buying houses, becoming managers of their job, and having this one after another life milestone celebration. And there I was not. So I looked around, and I had this thing that people do to themselves, which is awful. I compared my own success to that of those around me, and that's something which I suggest that no one should do, because it's very, very soul crushing. But as with that moment at film school, it motivated me to make something of this self-inflicted trauma. So I created these characters who were all very different archetypes of young adults. There's the ambitious one, the quiet one, the one who just wants things to be placid, and the hard worker. So going through their lives from like ages 8 to 58, that's a nice little arc there. They almost end up leading each other's lives, in that they're often motivated by spite, by wanting to get a leg up over the others, and they're not necessarily being driven by their own happiness per se. And I found that to be a really interesting way of telling how not to live one's life. So when I titled it "The Lives We Lead," it wasn't necessarily saying that it was their own lives they were leading. So that was the idea behind that one.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree when it comes to comparison. It's just one of the life's tragedies, and it's probably more prominent, I think, in our time, because you've just got stuff thrust in your face all the time. It went from sort of billboards and magazines, but like those people were, they're the stars, they're the celebrities, they're very far removed from, the rest of us mere mortals. But now it's kind of like, oh, my friend is, like at the resort sipping on margaritas or something, and I'm here in some job I hate, but yeah, I just don't see any positive. Like in comparing, like, if you compare up like to others, then it just makes you feel shit. If you compare to others and you're the type of person where you're then thinking you're better than those people, then that's also not a good result. So it's good that you've, I guess, been aware of that at an early age, shows that kind of level of depth. So what was the next project after that?
After I made The Lies We Lead, I had a lot of success with it. It got distribution straight away. It got me noticed right away, and I had this sense of this isn't going to be long term, so I need to work on the next one right away. But I got the influence to make what has now become A Silent Agreement, but I thought I'm not quite ready to make that one yet. It's still quite raw to me, still quite precious, and I wasn't at the level where I could get it made financially. So I thought I'll have this one little practice one in the middle there, and I made a film called Hunting for Shadows, which was it stands as my biggest mistake in that it wasn't my genre, it wasn't my style of storytelling. It was the amalgamation of everyone around me who didn't have my best interest at heart and my best way of creating at heart, just to be as normal and as mainstream and as much like everyone else as I could be. So it was a horror thriller based on mythology, which I picked up in bits and pieces from a holiday up in the Warrumbungles National Park. And I finished it and looked at it and thought, I despise this piece, but I keep it there, and I still lean into it every now and then to say that I haven't disowned it entirely, but I keep it there as a reminder to myself, if ever I step away from what I truly want to do and what I'm trying to say, this is going to be the response. It's going to be something which, like, sure, it might get finished, and one out there might actually like it, but it is no indication of my abilities as a storyteller. It looks like it was shot on nothing, and it was. And the people involved in it, I think from start to finish, just everyone involved was in it for themselves, and that really shows in the finished product. I did this whole piece afterwards saying that I could really tell when this film came about who was there and for what reasons, and who actually stayed back with me once we finished shooting to pick me back up off the ground and to put me back together again, because it was devastating to make, having just a whole cast and crew of people who didn't like me, I didn't like them back, and it was a disaster. So that's quite a lesson, which I could have just said, you know what, close it all down. It never happened. This will never see the light of day. But that's going against what I'm trying to create as a filmmaker. Is the reality and the authenticity of we all stuff up, and we are often led down the wrong path by people, and we have a lot of advice given to us, a lot of people wanting to collaborate on that which it might be another, but it's not something which we want to attach ourselves to, and all the rest. So that is just there as a reminder to myself to stay true and stay authentic, and now and then say no.
Yeah, so interesting. So, I mean, how did you come to connect with these different people, I guess, and in hindsight, I guess, what did you do wrong that I guess meant that you kind of ended up in that scenario working with a variety of people that kind of didn't really like each other or were too self-focused and what have you? And how could you possibly avoid it, or could other people maybe learn from your journey?
At the time, I had the inkling that a lot of it is based on the individual and what they're wanting to have, which is, generally speaking, prestige and money. That's what most in the industry are driven by, and I can't say that I don't have any of that in me, but I don't have it now, and it's not killing me, so it is what it is. But for Hunting the Shadows, I had these two individuals of chalk and cheese, black and white. I had Paul Mercurio, the actor, who was who I got a hold of just by chance. I was doing an interview with somebody talking to filmmakers and actors around. I mentioned to him on my list of people I want to work with, and in the interview lent in like how much you want to work with him, sort of thing. So they connected us together, and Paul was really altruistic. He's like, I'll be there for you. I am your tool for this endeavor, and whatever you need of me, I will produce. Then I had more crew-based people who were there for the credit and for the money I was offering, because I'd made a little bit off of Lives We Lead, and I wanted to put the funds from one film into the next and make it snowball. So those who were in it for just the money took it and ran, did minimal effort, and made it so they would have to get more by dragging out the production time and so on and so forth. When I made my fourth feature film last year in 2019, Blood of God, I did a little test to myself. I told everybody involved it was going to be shot in rural New South Wales, and it was going to be unpaid, and it was going to be a labor of love as far as the film goes. But it wasn't. It was shot in Sydney, and they were paid, and it was everything that I said it wasn't. But those who got involved were in it for the reasons of, I want to help this guy out. I believe in this project, and they were happy to ostensibly go through a hard time and not be put up in a resort or whatever for production. And then they got surprised with, oh, this actually isn't going to be as hard as it's made it out to sound. And when we finished the production, we were all so familiar with each other, so familiar with each other that I proposed to my partner at the wrap party, because better than a family, it was just my tribe was around me. So that was a really gratifying thing to happen.
Yeah, that's amazing. So good. Congratulations on that. That's pretty exciting. I mean, a nice kind of like a redemption story versus the other the other project.